Okay, so today I'm going to tell you how I make my no-knead bread. A lot of people have tried it and they love my bread and they've been asking me for the recipe, so I've been writing it down loads of times. So today I decided just make a video. It's really simple. It's very quick, takes 5 minutes to prepare, and it's all about timing. Today I'm going to go over my basic recipe for your basic white loaf. From that basic loaf you can make all the other loaves I've made. Flaxseed, multigrain, whole wheat, Panda chocolate, Baps, everything you could possibly imagine. Now it's time to talk about ingredients. There are only 4 ingredients you need for my no-knead bread. Flour, yeast, salt and water, and that's it. Now the flour I use is the Gold Medal brand. I love that. It's a bread flour. You don't want to use all-purpose. There's not enough gluten in it and you'll get a heavy, dense loaf, not very appetizing. The yeast I use is the Red Star bread machine yeast. Don't use the active yeast. That one you have to proof and there's a lot more messing around. This you can actually just mix in dry and you don't have to worry about it. I've had consistent results with it. The thing about the yeast is you've got to make sure it's fresh. Now if you've just bought a jar or just opened a packet, then it should be pretty fresh as long as the expiration date is current. If you've had it open, you've generally been storing it in the refrigerator. They say it lasts for around about 6 months. In my experience it lasts around about 3. So you need to test for freshness. And I do that every so often just to make sure I get a consistent loaf. So let's talk about how to test your yeast for freshness. So if you're using yeast out of a jar or even an open package, you want to test to see if it's fresh. If your yeast is not active, then basically you're going to get a flat, dense loaf. So if you've had some yeast stored for a while, it's a good little test you can use to make sure it works. What you need to do is get yourself a measuring cup and dissolve 1 tablespoon of granulated sugar in about half a cup of warm tap water, around 110 to 115 degrees. If you use a thermometer, you can sort of gauge what that is. If you haven't got a thermometer, then that's okay. Just make sure it's warm but not too hot to touch. Once you've got that water, what you need to do is stir in a 1/4 ounce, or 7 grams, or 2 1/4 teaspoons of dry yeast into it and give it a good stir. In 3 to 4 minutes the yeast will have absorbed enough liquid and start to rise. So if you give it around about 10 minutes, a foamy yeast will sort of start rising up to around about the 1 cup mark. Now, if your yeast does that, then it's active and you're good to go. If it doesn't reach all the way up to the 1 cup mark, that means some of that yeast is not working. That means you're not going to have a successful rise on your bread. So now your yeast is all ready to go. We need to use our salt. Now the salt I use is a table salt. The Morton's iodized salt is the best one I've used. It's inexpensive and it's basically for taste. So you can use your own judgment on how much you want to use. This is the basic recipe, so this will give you a good starting off point, and then after that you can decide how much or how little salt you'd want to put in it. Now don't use sea salt, because sea salt is a little too grainy and it won't combine, and it'll give you a gritty taste. And then the last thing is 12 ounces of cool water from your refrigerator or directly from the faucet. So the prep time on this is real simple. What you do is you get your 3 cups of bread flour, and to that you add 1 heaped teaspoon of salt. Now like I said, salt's to taste, so you can adjust that and experiment by yourself. Next thing you add is your yeast. Like I say, if it's been in the refrigerator, make sure you've had it taken out for at least 30 minutes. Before you put it in. And what we're going to do is we're going to add 1/4 teaspoon of yeast. A spoon or a whisk and combine that. Make sure it's nice and well combined. And then we're just going to add the water. 12 ounces of water. Use the handle of your wooden spoon and just combine it all together. Now remember, this is no knead bread, so there's no real kneading required. It's just combining the ingredients. And there you go, all combined, and that's it. That's all the mixing you need to do and all the kneading you need to do too. So what you need to do now is, once that's all combined, you need to let it rest for 8 to 12 hours. So what I do is I do it first thing in the morning before I go to work, and then I just, by the time I've come home, it is proofed and it has literally risen and doubled in size. So what you need to do is you can get some cling wrap, stretch that over, make a nice tight seal. But I'm quite lucky, I have a Pyrex dish, and on that I just pop this on. Just put that on the side of the counter, leave it for 8 to 12 hours, and it gives you a lot of flexibility that way. And then when you get back from work, you can go move on to the next stage. Okay, so I just got back from work, and my bread has been sat for around about 7.5 hours. What we're going to do is we're going to take it out. So first thing you need to do, take off the top. If you notice, it's almost doubled in size, trebled even. It's expanded, all the yeast has done its work, done all the kneading for you. Now we just need to give it a fold and let it rest for a little while. So what you need to do, get some flour in your work area, get yourself a little spatula, and we'll scoop this all out. You'll notice it's really, really sticky. So I'm gonna have to give it a good old scrape. Make sure you use plenty of flour on your work surface so it doesn't stick. Okay. And again, flour your hands. And what we're gonna do is, literally, we're gonna fold it over, turn it a quarter turn, fold it again, quarter turn, fold it again, quarter turn, one more time. So you've done it 4 times. Basically then, you've got a round ball, and what you got to do is you got to tuck it in. So if you notice here, look, I'm using my fingers to push it on the inside of itself here. So you get a nice round ball. Nice and smooth. Okay? So now we're going to let this rest for an hour, and it'll actually double in size again. I found the best way. I found this guy online doing this, and he uses a frying pan or a skillet, a non-stick one. Just give it a blast with some Pam spray. Set our little ball in there, cover it up with a lint-free towel, tuck it in, let that rest for 1 more hour. Okay, our bread's been resting for about an hour, and as you can see, it's starting to increase in size. What we're going to do now is we're going to leave it for another 30 minutes, and in that time we're going to prep our oven. So you need to put your oven at 450 degrees, and on your top shelf you're going to put in your baking vessel. Now the baking vessel that I use, it's because this is what I had, is a Corningware dish. As you can see, it's well used for my bread. I just use this for bread. It is 2.5 liters, and it has a glass lid. Now the lid is the important part as well, because what it does is it imitates a brick bread oven and keeps all the steam in, all the moisture in, so it keeps your loaf moist and wet, and stops it from drying out. Now you can use it without the lid. It doesn't rise as much, and you get a crispier crust on the top, but any baking vessel will do as long as it's oven proof and it's got a lid. So I'm going to put the oven on 450, set this in, let it warm up, and then we'll come back in 30 minutes. Okay, it's been a total of an hour and a half, 1 hour resting, 30 minutes prepping the oven at 450 with our baking vessel inside. So if you take a look at this now, this thing's got huge. It's all starting to puff up. So what we're going to do is we're going to transfer it to our baking vessel. So let's get that out of the oven. Okay. Oven gloves, nice and hot. Now, the reason we use the skillet is an easy transfer. So all you have to do now is literally just flop that baby in there. Sits right in the middle. Give it a shake. Then you normally score the top with a knife. I saw another trick online, just using a pair of scissors. Just give it a nice couple of snips. Gives you that nice rustic crust on the top. Okay, center it, lid on, and back in the oven. Bake it now for a full 30 minutes. So we've got our bread out of the oven, and as you can see, just tip it out. Beautiful loaf. Nice risen, nice and crispy on the outside, soft on the base. Just a little warm. The best thing to do is put this on a cooling rack, let it cool down, and you can serve it straight away. Perfect loaf. Now to get the crisp crust on the top here, you notice where we cut it, it's got that sort of rustic crust. Now, once you put your dish in the oven and it's baking for about 30 minutes, for the last, say, 3 to 5 minutes, depending how crusty you like it, how crispy, how well done you like it on top, you want to take that lid off. So 30 minutes cooking, and then 3 to 5 minutes with the lid off. Again, experiment, see how crusty you like it, and then you are good to go. So this baby's done, and that's how you make it. 10 minutes work, just all about the timing. Enjoy.